What's barking, dog lovers? It's Zach from the Pampered Pup. In this video, I'm going to do a comparison of a Pup Above versus Spot and Tango's fresh dog food. I'm really excited to do this one because both of these dog foods actually taste pretty great. And not only will I taste the recipes from both brands, but I'm going to evaluate how they stack up in terms of the quality of the food itself, the convenience to the pet owner, and ultimately how much they cost. And I've done the calculations to make sure that we're doing this comparison in a fair way. And if you just want that quick answer, unfortunately right now I don't have one for you. By the end of this video, I sure will. This is a really close call, and I think that the side-by-side taste comparison is going to be the deciding factor at the end of the day. But if you decide to choose either a Pup Above or Spot and Tango for your dog, make sure to use my links in the description of this video to get the best discount that I'm currently aware of. So let's dive right in and see how a Pup Above and Spot and Tango stack up in terms of quality. And I'll evaluate their appearance, their smell, and their taste, among other things. So the first thing I always assess when evaluating fresh dog foods is their appearance. How do they look? Do they look appetizing, or do they kind of look like dog food? So I'll start off by doing a side-by-side comparison of the turkey recipes from both brands. On your right, I have a Pup Above's turkey paella, and on your left, I have Spot and Tango's turkey with red quinoa. And when I put them side by side, I have to say that this is one of the toughest calls I've ever had to make. The recipes really look quite similar, and the meat doesn't really look like a mush. It has a nice firm consistency that doesn't really remind me of dog food, whereas the meat in some of these fresh dog foods look a little bit more like a slop or like a finely ground paste that's a bit unappealing. There's not huge chunks of the meat in either of these recipes. It seems more shredded or something like that. It's a bit more solid rather than a mushy paste. Both of them have decent sized chunks of vegetables. You can see peas and carrots in both cases. And ultimately, I think it comes down to the colors in the recipes here. To me, Spot and Tango's just looks a bit more fresh, a bit brighter. The greens of the peas are more vibrant, the carrots are a bit more orange. And while it's definitely a close call, I think Spot and Tango's turkey recipe takes the upper hand. Now let's look at the beef recipes from each brand, and I have on your right a Pup Above's Texas beef stew, and on your left Spot and Tango's beef and millet. And as with the turkey recipes, this is really a close call. Once again, the meats in both recipes look nice and firm in texture, not sloppy at all. It doesn't necessarily elicit the thought of dog food. They both have whole peas and nice chunks of carrots in there. Once again, I think it's ultimately going to come down to the color here. While a Pup Above's Texas beef stew is a little bit devoid of color, a little bit darker, I would say Spot and Tango's beef and millet's a little bit brighter and fresher looking, especially when you look at those green peas and those bright orange carrots. Next, I'll assess the smell of these recipes. Do they smell like something I'd want to eat, or do they smell a little off-putting like dog food? We'll start with the turkey recipes and a Pup Above first. Pup Above's recipes always do really well in the aromatic department. They have a nice herbal profile to them, which makes them really appealing in my opinion. And there's definitely no off-putting flavors in there. It doesn't smell heavy, doesn't smell like dog food, anything like that. That definitely smells appetizing, and I'm not averse at all to tasting it here in just a minute. Now for Spot and Tango's turkey recipe. So it's definitely a stark contrast in the aroma department here. Whereas what you're smelling in a Pup Above's recipe is really that herbal profile, with Spot and Tango's recipe, you can smell the meat clear as day. It smells like turkey. Very clean, very pure, nothing off-putting about it whatsoever, and I definitely have no aversion to tasting it. That said, while both recipes smell great, a Pup Above smells a little bit more appetizing, so I'm going to give them the point there. Now let's try the beef recipes, and we'll start with a Pup Above again. Yep, that smells warm, spicy once again. Definitely smells appetizing. Smells a bit like human food, and I'd attribute that to the herbs they're using once again. Now for Spot and Tango's beef. As with the turkey recipe, Spot and Tango's beef has a very clean aromatic profile. You can definitely smell the beef, and I think I'm smelling the grain in there as well, millet in this case. And again, while Spot and Tango's beef recipe has nothing off-putting about it whatsoever, I think a Pup Above's beef recipe takes the upper hand. It smells a bit more delicious and a bit more interesting to try. So while both of Spot and Tango's recipes look better, a Pup Above's definitely smell a bit more appetizing. Let's see if taste will break the tie here. I'll start with the turkey recipes from each brand, and then I'll move on to the beef. Let's start with Spot and Tango's turkey with red quinoa. Not bad at all. That tastes absolutely nothing like dog food, and I'd say pretty much like human food. The texture is really nice, it's firm and dry like I was noting, not dry in a bad way, more like it's not a sloppy dog food. You can feel the grains of red quinoa in there, they definitely add a nice texture, and the whole thing tastes fresh, clean, definitely no problems there, definitely nothing off-putting or anything like that. A pleasure to eat, I would say, for sure. Let's contrast that with a Pup Above's turkey recipe. Well, I'm more than happy with Spot and Tango's turkey recipe. Pup Above's is actually delicious. There's definitely no off flavors in there at all, and the flavor profile is really fantastic. This one really tastes like human food, and I'm guessing if someone served it to you, you'd probably agree. So sorry, Spot and Tango, I love you, but a Pup Above's turkey recipe takes the cake here. Let's move on to the beef recipes now, and I'll flip it and start with a Pup Above's Texas beef stew. So a Pup Above's beef is not as delicious as their turkey, but it's still very good. It does have a touch of a strong flavor, I would say. It still tastes delicious, but some people might find that it tastes a little bit more like dog food, whereas you didn't get any of that with the turkey recipe at all. Definitely not bad, definitely not grossed out by eating it in any way, and I think a dog would be very happy. So let's see how it compares to Spot and Tango's beef and millet. So as with the turkey recipe, the textures in the beef and millet are really, really nice. I don't think I've ever had millet aside from in Spot and Tango's recipes, but I'm guessing that's what provides the nice chew there. It really tastes fresh, it really tastes clean, and there's no indication whatsoever that you're eating dog food. And while I think a Pup Above's beef recipe is definitely good enough for your dog, I think I'm going to award the point to Spot and Tango's beef and millet here. It just tastes clean and fresh, and it's a little bit more like something I'd return to the bowl for. And before we move on, just a bit more about what goes into each of these recipes. The recipes from both companies are formulated by veterinary nutritionists. The main difference I see is that Spot and Tango's recipes are formulated by a PhD in veterinary nutrition, whereas a Pup Above doesn't give those credentials on their website, as far as I can tell. Recipes from both a Pup Above and Spot and Tango are formulated to be balanced and complete nutritionally so that they comply with AAFCO standards. And both companies cook their fresh dog food in USDA kitchens, so they're subjected to the same safety standards as human food. A Pup Above mentions that they use GMO-free veggies, and Spot and Tango says all of their veggies and meat are GMO-free, and they don't use any hormones either. And in terms of nutrition, the main thing I look at in fresh dog food is their protein content as fed. And both of these brands are two of the highest out there. A Pup Above's recipes range from 13 to 14% protein as fed, and Spot and Tango's range from 12 to 14% as fed. So very, very similar, and in both cases that means your dog's getting a higher than average serving of delicious proteins with each bite. So now let's talk about the convenience of these companies to the pet owner. And one stark contrast is in the purchasing experience. A Pup Above is a bit of a standout here because they don't require you to have a subscription to purchase their fresh dog food. So that means you can just give it a try, no strings attached. Just place your order, see if your dog likes it, and you can go from there. Spot and Tango, on the other hand, like most fresh dog food brands out there, does require you to have a subscription to buy their fresh dog food. However, just like all the other brands, it really is quite easy to cancel your subscription if you decide it's not the right choice for your pup. All you have to do is make a couple clicks in your account dashboard on their website and you're good to go. No more shipments, no more billing, anything like that. But still, I think subscriptions tend to make you buy more than you actually need in the long run, so it's nice that a Pup Above doesn't require one. In terms of shipping, a Pup Above had one of the longest transit times that I've come across. I placed my order on a Sunday night, and it came not the following Thursday, but the Thursday after that. So it was a total of 8 full business days between placing my order and receiving the shipment on my front porch. Spot and Tango, on the other hand, was really, really fast. I placed my order with them on a Sunday night as well, and I received it on the following Thursday. So it was only 3 full business days between placing my order and receiving the shipment. Keep in mind that shipping times will vary depending on where you live in the United States, but that was my experience. And one thing I didn't like is that a Pup Above packs their shipment with some sort of insulation and plastic packaging, and it didn't seem like it was cellulose, it seemed like something else, and I ended up throwing it in the trash, which never really makes me feel good. Spot and Tango's shipping materials and insulation, on the other hand, were completely recyclable, so I put that all in my recycling bin. No problems there. And in terms of how the food itself is packaged, a Pup Above's frozen patties are about 1 pound each, and they're, vacuum sealed in plastic. There's no easy peel tab or anything like that, so you do have to break out some scissors if you want to open the bag, which always makes for a dirty pair of scissors. Spot and Tango packed my meals in half-pound packages, which is definitely a bit less to defrost at a time, which is nice. Less risk of it going to waste. And they do include an easy peel tab on the container to make it nice and easy to open. Once thawed, a Pup Above says the food should be consumed within 7 days, whereas Spot and Tango only gives you 4. One other really big thing to consider is the cost of these fresh dog foods, and I've done the math to compare them on a dollars per pound basis. If you order similar amounts of food and similar variety in the recipes, then a Pup Above's food comes in at about $13 per pound, which is really, really quite high for fresh dog food. Spot and Tango's meals, on the other hand, come in at about $9 per pound, which is still on the high side, but definitely not as high as a Pup Above. Taking everything into account, this is still a really difficult choice in my book, but I think a Pup Above's the better choice for pet parents who want to give their dog delicious tasting dog food. I don't think you can go wrong with Spot and Tango either, and obviously the price is a little bit better there. And if price is a major factor in your decision, you might also want to check out The Farmer's Dog. I'll leave that video playing right here. They also make delicious tasting dog food, and they're a bit more affordable than either of these two brands. And if you do choose a Pup Above or Spot and Tango for your dog, remember to use my links in the description of this video to get the best discount that I currently know of. I hope this helps you find a delicious tasting fresh dog food for your pup.